There was something you want to ask about. What do men think about marriage, or something?
Yeah. So what's your take on marriage? Like, how do you feel about marriage and the commitment of marriage? Like, what does that, because some people in previous relationships, it was like, I was like, oh, you know, I don't think you need to conform, and you don't need to write a bit of paper to know that you really love each other. But then actually, that's not how I feel now. And things can change. It's funny because we're coming back, because we were like, you know, things do change and evolve, and your feelings, and as you get older, you realize what's important in life.
Yes.
How do you feel about marriage?
Such a good question. How do I feel? How do guys feel?
Both.
Ooh, okay.
Start with guys.
Start with guys.
Yeah.
Okay. We've just talked about so many beautiful things.
I know.
And now I have to come in and ruin it with what guys say. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm going to be completely honest with you.
100%. Go for it.
Less guys want to get married today.
Lee didn't want to get married, really.
Okay. Yeah.
So I get that.
There are a few reasons, main reasons, but a couple of the really big ones for guys, especially my generation.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of men ruined by divorce.
Yeah.
And divorce is one of the biggest reasons why a man will commit suicide over the age of 40. And a lot of the time it's because the courts are very biased in the woman's favor when it comes to custody of children, when it comes to dividing the assets, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And not always, but because a lot of the time, most women want to choose a man who's able to provide. So more than likely, he would have worked hard, put himself in a position where he can invite a woman into his life that he can take care of her in that sense, be that kind of man for her, because he wants to do that for the woman he loves. And then if it goes south, he kind of gets penalized and punished for it.
Yeah.
You know, if we take the case of like the O.J. Simpson case, you know, he allegedly murdered, never convicted, but, you know, he became the top 1% in his career, you know, gave blood, sweat and tears to put himself in that position, hugely successful, you know, invited this amazing woman into his life, provided her a house, life, everything. Then one day he came home, she was cheating on him, she handed him divorce papers, he lost the house, he lost the kids. He had to give half of his earnings, I think, or maybe 60% of his future earnings to her while she was staying in the house that he bought. The man she was having an affair with was staying in there with him with the kids. And it's like, Chris Rock makes this joke, like, I'm not saying what he did was right, but I understand.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So a lot of guys they see that kind of story.
Yeah.
Not to say she cheated, but
no,
the courts being biased for the women against him.
Yeah.
Losing access to his children.
Yeah.
In terms of losing his livelihood.
Yeah.
And so a lot of men are very fearful of that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, because things have changed now, it's like back in the day, a lot of the reason why men would commit to one woman and marry her was obviously not the only reason, was because the incentive was the sexual intimacy. You have someone that you can be having regular sex with and stuff, and that's very important to men.
Yeah.
But now sex outside of marriage is not only is it not illegal anymore, but it's encouraged.
Yeah.
Right? Like we do it, right?
Well, it was a form of control, wasn't it, back in the day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And nowadays as well, there are plenty of people who have, great relationships, have families, but they're not legally married. So the document of marriage is no longer a necessity. And a lot of guys, because of what they have seen growing up, either in their own personal lives, as well as what we see in media, etc., a lot of guys they look at it as a business contract.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I get for a lot of women, it's like the sentiment of the declaration of love and commitment, etc. And that is there, but because of the ramifications, if it goes south, a lot of guys feel they're forced to look at it as a contract.
Yeah.
And they're looking at this as a deal, and they're like, this is a terrible deal.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys are asking,
the risk.
What do I get?
the risk and the reward.
Right? Yeah. The risk reward. Because guys can be very logical, right?
The
risk reward basis.
Yeah. Whereas females aren't. They're like, la, la, la.
Yeah, that's it. I think
some females.
Yeah. I think when it comes to marriage, I don't think women have to think that way because a lot of the time divorce, not always, but a lot of the time it favors them. So they're not forced to think that way.
Yeah.
With other things, like, you know, like for example, you know, her being, back in the day, women couldn't work, so they could only ever rely on a man. And so that could have put her in a very controlling position. So it's like, okay, it's important you have the freedom to do that, so you can't be controlled or manipulated by a guy for your own survival, right?
Yeah.
That's something you forced to have to think about because it's for your own survival. And this is the same with guys.
Yeah.
And the irony is, even though that is the case, most guys love the idea of what marriage means. But because of the risk that comes with it, that's kind of a cold dose of reality. And so a lot of guys are like, well, I can still have someone forever.
Is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Do you know what I mean?
No,
is it worth it?
I get that.
Just being completely transparent.
Now,
now
you're putting it from a guy's perspective. I get it. I completely get it. And it's not right. It's not wrong. It's, you know, everybody has their own view on it. And I'm very much, I like to see both sides of the coin as well.
Yeah.
And going into marriage, I've always been very, again, like I've said, I've always had my own money. I've always been very like if I want to buy a handbag, I'll buy myself a handbag. Yeah. It's nice. Like I'm not materialistic. I look for emotional support. That's what I don't mind about things like that. It's lovely to have nice things, but it's that emotional connection that I crave. So I think also being a woman and actually still having, again, I'm going round the houses, but bringing everything into linking everything to still keep a sense of you, a sense of work, a sense of friends, seeing people. Because I think if you make your world really small, then if anything did happen and you break up, then it's like, hold on a minute, I've built up my whole life around this one person and this is that one person and now it's gone. I've not been seeing my friends. And that's one thing that I am really big on. Socialize with your friends, still live your life. And then actually when you do come back, like when I go away to work for a week, I miss Lee like mad. But then it's like we come back together and we're like, oh my God. So it's, you know, I do feel like it's having a sense of your own independence while still enjoying that person. Yeah. But I think going forth into marriage, I think it's good to have open dialogues. There's a whole thing, you know, there's that conflict of prenup. And it's like if a guy produces a prenup, it's seen as like, oh my God, like the woman's like, how dare he? Like it's like
the most unromantic thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're going to get married, but can you just sign this? Yeah. But then I get it. I get it from the guy's point of view. Yeah. You're protecting yourself. And you know, I said I was going to be really open and honest. Going into the relationship with Lee, he never, you know, he was always very like, he is a provider and da-da-da-da-da. But he was like, and I said to him, I said, you've got two beautiful children that are now ours and I love them more than anything. And I've literally, we both opened up each other's arms to each other and it was beautiful. And like the best thing in the world to have those girls in my life. And I did say, I said, I was quite honest. I said, as a friend and as your best friend, I said, do you want me to sign something to make sure that those girls are protected regardless?
Wow. That's amazing.
I wasn't actually going to say this today, so I don't know why I'm saying it. But I did say, I was like, look, because I'm not with you for what you've got. I'm not with you for everything. I said, I'm with you because I love you. And I was like, and I would absolutely do that. I said, because it's not about me and you. Also, you've got two babies. They're not babies. I mean, one's like 7 now and one's 15. And he was like, no. He was like, Harriet, no. He was like, no. And I was like, look, I said, I'm happy to do that. And he was like, this is forever. But again, you could argue that he's like thinking, you know, like with his heart and not his brain. But I think he just, I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think, honestly, I think.
I wasn't even going to say that.
No, I think that's amazing. And that is a lot of guys, especially, maybe I'm biased in my circles, a lot of guys that I know, if they were ever going to get married, a prenup would be a non-negotiable. They would have to. But if he was dating someone, they're in a relationship, he sees himself with her, and she came to him being, hey, I recognize the hard work you've done, etc. I recognize the landscape. If you want me to sign something, I'm happy to do that for you.
Yeah.
For a lot of guys, where they're like prenup non-negotiable, they would even, from her coming to him like that, he'd be like, I don't even need to do that now.
Yeah.
Because you literally came to me with it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If he said, hey, look, I love you, I care about you.
Yeah.
But it's really important for me that this is something that, should anything go south, not saying it would, but we understand how we're going to separate.
Yeah.
I come in with what I leave what I came with, you leave what you came with, right? And if she, I think for a lot of guys, if she was like, no, I'm not doing that, etc., that would make him go, I think that would make him ask question whether this is the woman, because if she can't understand why I need this, or why this is important for me, then she doesn't understand me.
No.
And I understand for a lot of women, maybe it looks like, oh, you don't trust me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's not that necessarily he doesn't trust who you are today, but people can change over time.
Yeah. And again, like you can say this now, but throw in a curveball out there. You don't know what could happen in the future if somebody hurts somebody, and it could potentially get really messy.
Yes.
But then going back to, I think he knows the core of me, because I think I'm very, just for example, in my previous relationship, I got hurt before Lee.
Yeah.
And really hurt. But I left our situation.
Yes.
And he was the one that cheated. I don't want to say cheated, because that's not fair, because he didn't physically cheat on me.
Sure.
But there was boundaries within the relationship that were crossed. I will ask you about that in a minute. Like the sexting, the pictures.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Messaging, intent. But what I'm trying to bring it back to is, he hurt me massively. But I didn't go low. I literally left him everything. And I was like, do you know what? I'm not even going to fight for it, because I can build myself up again and I'll do it all again. And I didn't take anything. I said, you want TV, you have the TV. If you want the Mac, you have the Mac. I was a bit like, well, I did pay for the Mac. So
fair enough then. You take it. Yeah.
But I didn't want the drama. I didn't want the hassle. And my friends were going, he's really hurt you. Take that TV. And I'm thinking, I haven't got the energy. I'm not that, like, I'm not really vindictive. And again, I'm not attached to things, materialistic things. I was like, I don't have that in me. So I think Lee knows that I have walked away, and I'm always very honest. Like, I tell you my life story. I was totally, he knows that I'm just not like that.
Oh, this is just my take.
Yeah.
That quality about you, right, that you have, I guarantee would have had a big influence in him being like, I can trust this woman with my life, whether it goes south or not.
Yeah.
100%. Because not everybody would respond that way, especially if they've been done wrong, which emotionally we can justify it. Well, you've done me wrong, etc. Right?
Yeah. And that one-upmanship, and then where does that stop?
Where does it
stop? And it's like, for my own, mental health and self-preservation,
spiritual peace,
I don't need that.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not a thing for me.
100%.
And I don't want to engage in that.
Hope you really enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode where that clip is from, then I want you to click right here where you can watch the full episode. And if you're ready to claim your man today, enroll in my program below, and I'll see you there. Wishing you an amazing day.